Hey, what's up everybody? Nexel here. Today we're doing a Weiss Schwarz deck profile on probably one of the stronger decks in the English format. It's going to be Love Live Sunshine with this Yo, essentially just doing a lot of damage at level 2, trying to finish out a game early. But before we get started on our deck profile, let me just start by announcing that in all of Love Live Sunshine, Kanan is best girl. And if you want to leave a comment below as to who your best girl is and why they are, definitely feel free to leave that opinion down below. But that is where I stand on this anime. So feel free to leave a comment with your personal opinions on it. But with that being said, let's go ahead, delve into the deck profile. And like our other deck profiles, we will talk about the choices that we made, the deck list, as well as how the deck works. So let's go ahead, starting off with our level 0 lineup. Let me go ahead and filter it out right now. Okay. So starting out with our level 0 lineup, we have 3 copies of Capture Stance Kanan Matsura. Now, this card is one of the most busted cards in this entire set, and there's a reason it's part of a choose list in the Japanese format. The first effect, when this card is put into your waiting room from the stage, look at the top card of your deck and put it on the top or the bottom of your deck. This is really good on offense or defense, because what happens is that if you swing with this card and essentially allow it to get beat, it goes to your waiting room, you check the top, and then you either put a character towards the bottom, getting you closer to canceling damage, or you leave the climax on top, making sure you cancel that first point of damage. In terms of on offense or helping you during your turn, if you leave this card up here and they take this card out, once it hits the waiting room, you top check that card. Is this a card you're going to want to use? If yes, keep it at the top and then just draw into it next turn. So a really good card on offense and defense just for that first effect. The second effect is going to be when another one of your characters is put into your waiting room from the stage. If this character is in the backstage, you may pay the cost, which is putting this card to your waiting room. Return that character to its previous stage position as rest. So it essentially keeps things alive in your center stage. But not only that, the cost of this card puts it in the waiting room, which gives you that first effect, which again is really, really good. So it saves things, and then it also helps you filter and try and make sure that you get the cards you need or put the cards where you need them when you need them. So really good card right there, and definitely a good reason why it's on the choose list in JP. Then we play 3 copies of Aozora Jumping Heart Yoshiko Tsushima. Now this I would definitely play 4 of, but like other cards in other games, unfortunately getting that 4th copy is really, really expensive. Personally, I only like playing 3 of this because I don't know how else I would get rid of other cards in this deck. I've tried it with a 4th copy, just borrowing a friend's copy, but I like this at 3. So the way this card works is that it's going to be your mill runner. So second effect, at the beginning of your opponent's attack phase, you may put the top card of your deck in the waiting room. If that card is a music character, you may move this card to an open position of your center stage. So again, mill runner is really good because it takes cards off the top of your deck, helping you compress down if you need to. Not only that, but it also saves this card. So let's just say you've got all open positions, you just have one of this card out, you've already attacked, whatever, and then on your opponent's attack step, if you mill a character card, boom, just move it somewhere else, protect it, and keep it so that you can use it next turn as another means of gaining stock without having to lose any additional cards. Next effect, the first effect, when this card attacks, choose one of your characters and that character gets plus 500 power until the end of turn. This is pretty good because at level 0, like the general ranges for stuff are going to be anywhere between 2,000 to the upper extreme is 4,000. So 500 is really good. It closes that gap. It helps you run over things. So giving something plus 500 is good. So let's say you even just tie. So if this is a 3K character and your opponent has a 3-5K character, you swing with this, turn your middle one into a 3-5, you tie it up, take care of that card. This wipes out the middle position, and then you can use this mill runner effect onto other different positions. So really good effect there. And mill runners, again, are some of the best cards to use when in doubt. All right, so 3 copies of that card. The reason that I don't play 4 copies of that card is because I like to play 3 copies of this card. So this card, we play 3 copies of Tears of a Fallen Angel Yoshiko Tsushima. This card is an anti-runner, and you cannot play event cards in backup from hand. That's the first effect, but who really cares? At level 0, if you're playing backups or event cards, like, you're probably doing something wrong because the best event cards and the best backup cards are generally level 1 or higher anyways. So You can't play event cards or backups from your hand. The second effect is what makes this really good on top of its power. So the second effect is the character facing this card cannot move to another position on the stage. This is an anti-runner. On top of that, it's a 3/5 anti-runner. This is going to get over pretty much any runner that exists in the game. Most runners are anywhere between 2k to 3k. They're very rarely really strong cards. So this card guarantees that that runner is not going anywhere. So for example, let's just say you have a setup like this, right? So it's your turn. You play down this. That opponent can't move. Even if they get the mill effect, that Yoshiko, this one, is staying there to get run over by this card. So the reason I also like this is that on your opponent's turn, actually, if you put this across from something else, that can't move. It's just that good. Like, let's just say your opponent's like, oh, I want to run over whatever in the middle position. This character can't move. It's stuck. It has to fight this card. So it's a really good effect that kind of has some tricks to it that you have to pay attention to. So I really like this card as a 3 of, and that's why we don't play 4 of the runners, because we play 3 of this card. This is going to help you with things like the Goblin Slayer matchup or pretty much any deck that runs runners. So we really like 3 copies of that card, and it's also 3/5. So even if you're not facing against a runner, it's likely running over whatever is on the opposite side anyways. We play 2 copies of Aozora Jumping Heart Dia Kurosawa. This card, when this card is placed on the stage from your hand, reveal the top card of your deck. If that card is a music character, put it in your hand, choose a card in your hand, and put it into your waiting room. So this helps you filter out climaxes from your hand. It also helps you dig a little bit further trying to get the card pieces that you need, because at level 0, you essentially want to build to your level 1 without having to do a lot of work. So this card just helps you get there a little bit sooner. Second effect, when this card is put into your waiting room from the stage, you may pay the cost. If you do, draw a card. So the cost for this is pay 1, put the top card of your deck into your clock. The reason that effect is good, I don't really find myself using it too often, because paying 1 and clocking yourself at level 0 is something that you generally don't want to do unless you need to, but it helps you dig out for climaxes. So for example, let's just say we start off with this Kanon, right? It's the opponent's attack step, they took out our Kanon, they took out our Dia, then this card goes to the waiting room, you top check the card. All right, is that the level 1 climax combo that you need? You leave it there. Or I'm sorry. No, you don't. See, this card, I messed that up entirely. You really can't use this effect for too much in terms of consistency, but it allows you to draw an additional card. And drawing cards is good for trying to get climax cards out. So I don't find myself using that second effect too often unless I'm like short on hand size or I really want that extra dig or something like that. But yeah, that second effect, not as good as I'd be hoping it would be, but it's good for just getting another card. The other reason we play this card is simply to fix for blue, so that we have a little bit more blue cards to put in our clock, to put in our level, so that way we can play another level 1 blue card later down the line. In terms of the rest of our level 0 lineup, we play 1 copy of Now Then Where Shall We Go, Chika Takami. This card is going to be, when this card attacks, you may pay the cost, which is pay 1 from your stock, and then put a card from your hand into your waiting room. If you do, search your deck for up to 1 music character, reveal it to your opponent, put it in your hand, and shuffle your deck. The reason I like this card is the same reason I like the Zekken Yuki card, because when you attack, you can pay 1 stock, so you can clean out a Climax combo or a Climax card that got stuck in here. And then you also get to search for a card. You get to discard a card from hand, getting rid of any additional Climax combos you have, or cards that you don't need, and then trading it in for a card that you will need. So just 1 copy of this to help us search for the things that we need. Since we don't have generally a good drop searcher, I like this better than the yellow drop searcher for the reason of digging out those climaxes, because we don't have a lot of cost ways of getting that climax out. In terms of the rest of our level 0 lineup, we play 1 copy of Aozora Jumping Heart Riko Sakurauchi. So this card, first effect, when another of your music characters becomes reversed in battle, choose one of your characters and that character gets plus 500 power till the end of turn. This is a good effect because it works on both your turn and the opponent's turn. So if your opponent reverses cards, this will give 500 power to something of your choosing. If you choose to crash another one of your cards into one of your opponent's characters, you can give something else 500 to help run over something else. So that first effect, just one of those things where it's like, yeah, an additional plus 500 early game is pretty good. Second effect is going to be a Brainstorm Effect. So reveal 4 cards from the top of your deck and put them in your waiting room. For each climax among them, or revealed, Choose up to one character in your waiting room and return it to your hand. This is good for if your level 1 combo gets stuck in the waiting room or you just somehow discarded it too early, things like that. Let's just say it was the first card in a stack of 3 that got canceled, so it ends up in your waiting room. So this is a good way of just getting it back. It's unfortunately, though, a pay 1, tap 2 in terms of its Brainstorm effect, but it's one of the best Brainstorms in this deck in order to get out the pieces that you need. Last level 0 we play is going to be 1 copy of Mirai Ticket, Hanamaru Kunikuda. First effect, when this character's trigger check reveals a climax, or when your character's trigger check reveals a climax, choose one of your characters and that character gets plus 2,000 power till the end of turn. Very rarely do I use that effect. If I use it, it's helpful, but I don't count on it being there. So plus 2,000, a good way of just rerouting your strategy and making sure you can run over something. Second effect is going to be a Brainstorm Effect, which is going to be pay 1 and rest this card. So this is a self-tapping Brainstormer, which is going to be good for later game when we have something else in our back row that we don't want to tap with the Brainstormer. So this effect, flip over 4 cards from the top of your deck and put them in your waiting room. For each climax revealed among those cards, choose up to 1 yellow card in your waiting room and return it to your hand. So the reason we play both of these is because the Rico gets us anything we want, especially the level 1 Chicas that we want in our hand. And then the Hanamaru is a self-tapping Brainstormer. It's good for in the back row late game when we have that other Rico that taps itself. So that's why we play 1 copy of that for just late game. All right, moving on to our level 1 lineup. Level 1 is super straightforward. So you want to try and triple lane these Chicas. This is going to be the level 1 Climax Combo Chica, Alzora Jumping Heart Chica Takami. So first effect, if all of your characters are music, this card gets the following ability. When this card becomes reverse, if the battle opponent is level 1 or lower, you may reverse that character. So it essentially takes care of other level 1s, especially if your opponent crashes into them. So let's just say your opponent's got an Aaron, and they need to reverse your card. Chica's pretty weak. 4K is not a lot of strength, and on the Climax Combo, it doesn't even gain any strength. But if you use this, if you get to level 1 first, you activate the effect, and then on your opponent, when they become level 1, if they have to swing into the Chica, since they're level 1, they're likely not having any level 2s out. It would just reverse them too. So that prevents like Aaron bounce backs. It prevents them from reusing their level 1 Climax Combo. So Chica really good on offense and defense, but you definitely want to try and get to level 1 first, so that way you can run over something with Chica, and then also use it as a defensive position when your opponent becomes level 1. Second effect is going to be that Climax Combo. When this card's battle opponent becomes reverse, if a card named Alzora Jumping Heart Chica is in your Climax area, so this card here, you may choose a character in your waiting room and return it to hand. So this is going to be your way of offense, defense, and maintaining hand advantage with the level 1 combo. Next level 1 we play is going to be 4 copies of Koini Naritai Aquarium Ruby Kurosawa. This is going to be your generic Akatsuki, where we don't even pay attention to the second effect because we don't even use it. First effect, when this card is placed on the stage from your hand, you may pay the cost of putting a card from your hand into the waiting room. If you do, look at up to 4 cards from the top of your deck, choose up to 1 music character from among them, reveal it to your opponent, put it in your hand, and put the rest in your waiting room. This is a good way of making sure you have all the pieces that you need for level 2, because at level 2, your game starts to build really, really quickly. So you want to make sure you have all the pieces you need, getting rid of any pieces that you don't in your hand. So you will essentially play this, you'll filter through the deck. So it goes through 4 cards, helping you compress that deck or helping you get closer to refresh, helping you kind of just time when your refresh occurs. So that way, like all your climaxes go back and things like that. So really, really good card. Another thing that's important about this card is that it's up to 4. So you get to choose. So when you activate the effect, you can search for just 1 card. You can go for 2, you can go for 3, or you can go for the full 4. So being able to choose how many you go down is very, very good because it helps you fix the math for those refreshes for when the waiting room goes back into the deck, things like that. So a really good card and a really obvious reason why we play 4 of them. The next and last level 1 we play are going to be 3 copies of Alzora Jumping Heart Mari Ohara. Now this is going to go into the reason why we play the Dayas in order to fix for blue, because we don't have a lot of blue in this deck. So we have the 2 Dayas, we have the 3 Kanons, and then we have the 3 Maris. So it's very unlikely you're going to get a full field of 3 of these out, because likely 1 might be in your clock, or 1 might be in your stock, or 1 might be even in just your level to make sure you're able to play blue. But this card, really good on offense and somewhat on defense. So first effect, when this card is placed on the stage from your hand, look at the top card of your deck and put it on the top or the bottom of your deck. This allows you to check that top card, similarly to the Kanon card where once it goes to the waiting room, you check that top card. Top checking the first card is going to be very important for our strategy later on, and this card definitely can be like an on play. You get a character out, and you also get to top check, which can be very, very important. Second effect, when this card attacks, this card gets plus X power until the end of turn, where X is equal to 1,000 multiplied by the number of other music characters that you have. So if you have a full board, when this card swings in, it goes in for 7k. So it's a free card. It costs nothing to get out. That swings for 7k, and that's going to get over a lot of level 1s. Last effect, when this card becomes reverse in battle, reveal the top card of your deck. If that card is level 2 or higher, you may return this card to your hand. So it's someone has like a pseudo Aaron effect, where if the condition is met, this card goes back to your hand. So it doesn't go to the waiting room. You get to keep this additional resource, and then you get to play it down, do another top check, and then swing again with a 7k. So it's a really, really good effect, which is why we kind of fixed our level 0s to play this card, because this can be helpful mid-game, it can be helpful late game. So I really like playing 3 copies of this Mirai because of those reasons, for like maintaining your hand size and doing damage, top checking, really, really good stuff, important for this deck. Moving on to our level 2 lineup. So we naturally play 4 copies of the Mirai ticket Riko Sakurauchi. This is going to be a card you definitely want 4 of, and you definitely want to draw it early on as much as possible. So first effect is an assist effect. All of your characters in front of this card get X power, where X is equal to 500 multiplied by that character's level. So it's a level assist, where if the character in front of it is level 3, it gets plus 1500. Level 1, plus 500. So level assist there, giving a little bit of a boost in strength. Second effect is going to be the important one. So when you use this act ability, it is put a card from your hand to the waiting room and rest this card. Reveal the top card of your deck, choose a level X or lower character in your waiting room, and return it to your hand, where X is equal to the level of the revealed card. So if you use this effect, you rest it, drop one from your hand, top check, it's a level 3. You can pick a level 3 or lower character in your waiting room, put it back in your hand. So this works for a lot of good reasons. So the first things first, it's a filter. So you get rid of like a Climax card in your hand, and then you get to potentially get a character back that you can play right away. So that's the first good use of this card, is filtering and getting back something from your waiting room that you can really use for that turn. The second effect is going to be, again, that top checking effect that we saw with the Mirai that becomes very important when we talk about our level 3 lineup. So the reason you want 4 of this card, we'll go back to it a little bit later, but you might have 1 in the clock, and then you likely want to have 1 out on the stage. So that's already 2 copies, and that doesn't account for ones that are in the waiting room or in the stock. So 4 copies of that card, I personally find, is essential for this deck. The next level 2 card we play is going to be today's Ultimate Ragnarok, Yoshiko Tsushima. First effect, when this card is placed on the stage from your hand, play rock, paper, scissors. That's right, play rock, paper, scissors with your opponent until someone wins. If you lose, all of your other characters get plus 2,000 power till the end of turn. So it's kind of like a cheeky effect where if you lose, all your characters are beefed up. If you win, it's not a big deal. That is not the reason we play this card anyways. Second effect, when this card becomes reverse, if the level of this card's battle opponent is higher than your opponent's level, you may put that character into your opponent's stock. If you do, put the bottom card of your opponent's stock into his or her waiting room. This is a really good effect to stock shoot an early out. The reason I find it's really good is because, number one, gets rid of an early out on reverse. So likely your opponent's got their early out, boom, you play this card, you purposefully crash into it in order to put that early out in the opponent's stock. The next thing I like about this card is that if your opponent triggered any Climax cards that aren't the bottom of their stock, this will kick the early out to the stock, and then it'll dig that Climax card further into their stock. So I find that to be very, very useful in terms of the effect. Someone double check me on that, because I'm pretty sure it's the bottom card is the one that's first in the stock. But definitely double check me on that. I'd probably get a judge ruling if I actually use this effect just to be safe. Just because the main reason I use it is really to get rid of those early outs. So that is going to be the use of that Yoshiko there. Next level 2 we play, and actually the last level 2 we play, is going to be Aim to Shine Ruby Kurosawa from the Extra Booster. So this is going to be a level 2 backup, where when you use this card's backup, put the top X cards of your opponent's deck into his or her waiting room, where X is equal to the number of music characters that you have. So if you use this card's backup, and you've got 5 characters on the field, your opponent is going to mill 5 cards from the top of their deck. Now, it's only ever happened once, but I have used this effect to effectively bring my opponent from 3-6 to to level 4, and then I won. It was amazing. It was crazy. They were like, all right, I've planned this out perfectly. We're totally going to get you. But then I played this back up. They milled those 5 cards, hit their refresh, took the point of damage, and then I won that game. It was amazing. It was pretty good. So I really like this card for that reason, and it's an additional 3k backup, which could save some of your things in case you needed to save something. But I really like that first effect of milling the opponent's deck down, because likely if your opponent plays well, they've compressed their deck, so hopefully that gets out more climaxes and gets them closer to refresh, so that way on your turn, you're able to do damage and have that damage stick. All right, let's move into our level 3 lineup, starting with the obvious level 3 that we must play in this deck, and that is going to be the Mirai ticket Chika Takami. So this is going to be one of the reasons you want to play 4 of this Rico. So if there is a card named Mirai Ticket Riko Sakurauchi, so this card here, in your clock, this card gets -1 level while in hand, so making it a level 2 that you can get early. The second effect is when this card is placed on the stage from your hand, you may pay the cost, which is 1 stock. If you do, choose a card named Mirai Ticket Yo Watanabe in your waiting room and put it on any position of your stage. So the general swing of this is that you're going to have this in your clock, play this card down, and get the Yo out. The whole purpose of this card is, number 1, it gets big when Yo is out, and number 2, it gets the Yo out. That's the main reason behind playing this. And then you also get another level 3 out, which is another just big, beefy card to run over things and swing for 2 soul. Now let's talk about the follow-up card, which is going to be, of course, the Mirai Ticket Yo Watanabe. The first effect, all of your other characters named Mirai Ticket Chika Takami, so this card here, get plus 2,000 power. So this gives this plus 2,000 power. If this is in the back, this is at 13.5, which is really good. Second effect is going to be the main reason we play this Yo card, even without the Chika. So when this card attacks, reveal the top card of your deck, which is why we care about things like this Kanan to top check, or the Mari to top check, or the Rico to top check. If that card is a music character, deal X damage to your opponent, where X is equal to that character's level. And that's crazy. That is absolutely nuts that you can put this in your clock, early out this card, then early out this card, like pseudo early out this card from your waiting room, and then you start swinging for damage, essentially just pinging for 1, pinging for 2, pinging for 3 even on level 2. That's absolutely busted. A lot of opponents, when they play this deck, try to stick the opponent at 1-6, so that way you cannot get the Rico in your clock, and then you are forced to play something else at level 2. So this is the card that people fear in this deck, because it is just free damage. There's no Climax Combo involved. There's no cost associated with burning the damage. So it's a really, really good card that you can get out at level 2. And because its condition is so easy, because it has to be in the waiting room and then you just play the Chika, we only play 3 copies of it. We don't find the need for a 4th copy because it's pretty easy to get out. So this is going to be the 3-card combo that essentially everyone fears when it comes to playing Love Live Sunshine. But let's talk about our tech options at level 3, starting with 2 copies of Koini Naritai Aquarium Yoshiko Tsushima. So this is going to be your generic win card. So when this card is placed on the stage from your hand, choose up to one of your opponent's characters, return it to his or her hand, and this card gets plus 2,000 power till the end of turn. So it gets beefy for the turn, and it gets rid of things like bodyguards or certain back row characters that you don't want your opponent to have. So wind is always a good option to have to just get rid of things that are problematic. Let's just say your opponent's got no stock. You just wind up a level 3 back to their hand, and then it's essentially like a card that they can't play the next turn. So there's a lot of good uses for wind, and that's why we played 2 copies of it, to make sure that we get this wind on demand. Because searching in this deck, getting the exact cards you need when you need them, are generally okay because of the Chika and the Akatsuki Ruby, as well as some of the other cards, but we play 2 copies because if we want this card in hand, we got to make sure we have it and that it's not in our clock, in our stock, in our waiting room, things like that. So we play 2 copies of it for that reason. Second effect is going to be when this card attacks. You may pay the cost of 1 stock and put a card from your hand into the waiting room. If you do, all of your music characters get plus 500 power and plus 1 soul till the end of turn. And I find that to be extremely helpful, not for the damage, not for that extra 500 power, but for that extra soul that it gives. So it essentially is like, all right, I'm really behind, but I know my opponent is really decompressed. There's a lot of characters in that deck, lots of points of damage. So let's go ahead, pay this cost. All of our characters get an additional soul. So it's kind of like a fake climax card when it comes to giving power and soul. So I really like that effect. It's good for closing out games and kind of controlling the flow if you know how many climaxes your opponent is out. Moving on to the next level 3 tech we play 2 copies of Mirai Ticket Yoshiko Tsushima. We don't play the Climax Combo, so let's just read it over real quick because I'm going to reference it later. A Climax Combo, when a card named Mirai Ticket is placed on your Climax area until the end of turn, this card gets plus 2,000 power and the following ability. When this card's battle opponent becomes reverse, you may put the top card of your clock into your waiting room. So it's essentially an on-reverse heal, but we don't play that Climax Combo, and we'll talk about it a little bit later. Second effect on this card, this ability activates up to 1 time per turn. During the turn that this card is placed on the stage from your hand, when damage dealt by this card is cancelled, put the top card of your deck into the waiting room and deal X damage to your opponent, where X is equal to that card's level plus 1. So let's say you swing in with this card and then your opponent cancels it. You mill the top card, it's that card's level plus 1 as damage to the opponent. So it's a Musashi, what it's called. So let's say they cancel it, you mill a level 3, they take 4 damage. Or they attempt to take 4 damage. Let's just say they cancel the attack, and then you mill a 0, a climax card, something like that. It's going to be plus 1. So it's going to at least give 1 ping of damage, which either is going to hurt your opponent or take care of a climax card that was waiting to cancel another damage. So any extra attacks we can get that will stick damage are really, really good for this deck. So this is like your level 2 setup didn't work out, so let's go ahead and play one of these, try to push the game a little bit further. All right, so that is going to be our next tech. Our final tech in our level 3 lineup is going to be Mirai Ticket Ruby Kurosawa. First effect, when this card is placed on the stage from your hand, you may put the top card of your clock into your waiting room. So this is going to be our heal for the deck, our solo heal for this deck. Because again, we want to finish things at level 2 with this 3-card combo. But just in case it drags out a little bit further, we get our generic 1 healer. When this card attacks, choose one of your music characters, and that character gets plus X power till the end of turn, where X is equal to 500 multiplied by the number of music characters you have. So giving something else potentially plus 2,500 power just to run certain things over in case you don't want them to stick for your opponent's next turn. So we only play 1 copy of that. Again, we want to finish this game off at level 2, which is why it's only 1 copy of that. In terms of our climax combos, we play 4 of the Alzora Jumping Heart Chica, which is going to combo with our level 1. It is a 2-soul climax card, which I'm not really a big fan of. The second effect is pretty good, though. When this card is placed on your climax area from your hand, choose up to 1 red card in your waiting room and put it in your stock. So that's pretty good because at level 2, you're going to be burning a lot of stock trying to get out the pieces that you need. So to be able to stock charge yourself a little bit is pretty good. And then everything gets plus 1 soul. Pretty generic level 1 utility to give everything 1 soul. The second climax combo we play, the second climax card we play is going to be just an Alzora Jumping Heart Yo. And the reason we play this is simply for the gate. It's a gate, a 1k1, give everything 1,000 power and plus 1 soul. And that's why we play this card. Now, I've had the question, why don't I play the Mirai Ticket that combos with the Yoshiko? It's a wind trigger, so wind trigger is really good for just wiping things off of the field. But personally, I find wind trigger to be very inconsistent. If you need a wind, you're going to want that wind on demand, not on like a random trigger effect, which is why we play the 2 wind level 3 Yoshikos. So I play this because this is a plus 1 to hand. In this deck, you find yourself running out of cards pretty quickly because there's very few plussing options in this deck. Your main plussing option is an on-reverse effect, which is good because it almost guarantees a plus every single time, but at the same time, it's a climax card, so there's very few ways to plus in this deck effectively. So having a gate option, where whenever it triggers, you essentially just plus 1 to hand, is going to be really, really good, especially when you need to like set up very specific pieces. Like maybe you need an extra copy of this Rico, but you've only got 1 in deck, and then the other 3 are in the waiting room. You trigger this, and then boom, it comes back to hand. So I personally find gate to be really useful. So we don't play it for any particular reason, but the gate is really, really good. I have heard of a friend that plays the actual Yo from set 1 with this card. I haven't personally tested it, but it's worked for him. So you can choose the techs as you want, but this is personally my deck list and how I like to play this deck. Let's go ahead and talk about the strategy regarding Love Live Sunshine, which is pretty straightforward. So, moving into the level progression of this deck. So at level 0, your main options are to get the anti-runner out, get the runner out, and get the Kanons out, because this is going to help you kind of set up your deck up for what you need and cancel when you need to. The other ones are just going to be your attackers. They're going to be the ones squeezing out the damage, pushing your opponent, and trying to, again, anti-runners. Really, really good. Really good for stopping your opponent in their tracks. And if they're just like, shoot, I was hoping that I'd get to keep that runner to build some extra stock. No. No, says this card. No. So that is going to be your level 1 strategy. These are just going to be generally like text when you need them. So maybe you just want to play down the Dia, kind of filter through your deck a little bit more. Maybe use its effect to plus yourself 1, get yourself to level 1 quicker. Because again, you want to get to level 1 quicker for the Climax combo. So that's going to be the general level 0 playthrough here. At level 1, you want to get to level 1 first because you want this combo to go off and you want it to be good on offense and defense. So again, running over a level 0 that has less than 4,000 power, getting the plus off of the waiting room, and being on defense for when your opponent tries to run over it, because your opponent's going to want to run over this. They don't want you to keep salvaging cards. So they will crash into this card and remove it from the field, but at the same time sacrifice their own level 1. So that's pretty good. I like doing this, trying to tri-lane the Chica as much as possible when I get to level 1 before my opponent. The Mirai is just for wiping things out in case your opponent's starting to build some really beefy players. So that's what the Mari's for, and of course the late game top checking. And then, of course, for Akatsuki's, they're not strong. They're not meant to destroy other things. They're really just meant for that Akatsuki ability where you discard 1, look it up to top 4. That helps you filter through the deck and get the pieces you need, setting yourself up for level 2. So that is the general level 1 playthrough. So I'll go ahead and keep these out because this is going to be important for describing the next part of this game. So level 2, your main goal between level 1 and level 2 is to, number 1, get one of these in hand. Right? You're definitely going to want to clock this when you're level 2. So you want to get one of these in hand, whether it be via your Chicas, trying to get them with the Climax combo, or via your Akatsuki's, trying to get them into your hand from your deck. So your level 1 goal is to build for level 2 by trying to get this in hand, and then trying to get the Chicas in hand as well. Because remember, this is an early out. So what you want to do is by level 2, you set yourself up where you're level 2, maybe you're 2-1 or 2-2 or something, then you're going to clock the Rico. You hopefully already have the Chica in hand, and then you've hopefully filtered through your deck enough with the rubies. At this point, level 2, you should have gone through most of your deck at this point, so the Yo should already be in your waiting room. So you somehow got the Rico in hand during your level 1 setup. Then you play it in your clock, and then you're going to want to, boom, play the Chica, pay the 3 costs, get the Yo out, pay an additional 1 cost, and this is going to be your main field at level 2. The other slots can kind of fill the way that you want them to. Personally, I like having a Kanan and a Rico in the back, simply because when people play Love Live Sunshine, they have anti-change, and they are going to want to use it on your Yo. So by having this card in the back, you can like attack or, get destroyed, something like that, and then just bring it back with the Kanan card and do that filtering that we talked about when we described the Kanan card. So your level 2 game is going to be get this in your clock, get this card out, and then just start swinging for damage. Because the Yo, again, no Climax combo, no cost, it's free damage as long as it's not level 0, which is why we play a lot of level 2s, we play a lot of level 3s, we play a lot of level 1s. Because we want this effect to go off every single time. Think about if you tri-laned this Yo, right? If you had something like this out, that is potentially 6 attacks of damage. And that is a lot. So you can go 3 here plus whatever the soul is going to be. Then you go maybe like 1 here plus whatever the soul is. And then you go maybe like 2 here plus whatever the soul is. Even if you whiff on just one of these, those extra points of damage for free are really, really good. So your general level 3 play is going to be something like that. And then if you're able to have the resources for it, personally, I like having 2 Ricos for this reason right here. So having this Rico as a level assist brings this Yo up to 11.5, and then brings up the Chica when the Yo is out to 13.5. So making these both big characters. At level 2, you also have access to your backup. So it keeps the board presence there. And again, you want to keep swinging with this Yo as much as possible. When I choose which target I'd rather have go to the waiting room, it's the Chica. So if both of these got sent to the waiting room, what am I saving with Kanan? I'm saving the Yo, because the Yo is the one that causes the damage. And that's essentially your strategy for the rest of the game. Hopefully you can close it out at level 2 by getting this Yo out. But again, the opponent, if they're playing Sunshine, likely know they have to somehow deal with this Yo with something like an anti-change. So what happens if you're forced to level 3? That's when the techs start coming in. So when it comes to our level 3 techs, we've got a heal, just in case we need it. We've got a Musashi, just to try and close the game out. Because if you get pushed to level 3, let's just say you couldn't finish it off with the early out Yos, you get anti-change, something like that. This Yoshiko, this Musashi effect is going to try and push you closer because maybe you just need just a little bit of extra squeeze. So you're going to go with the Yoshiko as opposed to risking a Yo where it might swing for 0 and then the damage gets canceled. In the case of the Yoshiko, you can swing and either the damage goes through and you potentially win the game right there, or even if it cancels, you get an additional swing of at least 1 extra damage. So that's why we play the 2 copies of the Yo, just in case we need to squeeze out that extra damage. And then, of course, our last level 3 tech, going to be the Koini Naritai Aquarium, Yoshiko Tsushima, trying to give you like that pseudo Climax combo where you give everything plus 1 additional soul, winding something if you need to. So that is going to be our level 3 game. Our level 3 game is a continuation of our level 2, plus some additional text to help you try and finish things off if you need to. So that is going to be the general strategy of Love Live Sunshine, which is a deck that loves to close things out early. So with that being said, if you have any questions, comments, or concerns, please feel free to leave them down in the comments below, and I'd be happy to answer when I have the time. If you'd like to join my Discord, as of right now, as of recording this video, there aren't any channels for Weiss, but if these Weiss decks build up some momentum, maybe I'll consider adding a section of my Discord to being dedicated to Weiss. But that is all for now. Thank you all so much for watching. As always, if you have any questions, comments, or concerns, please feel free to leave them down in the comments below, and I'd be happy to answer when I have the time. But that is all for now. Thank you all so much for watching, and as always, until next time, take it easy.